Okay, this is the second part of section 8.2, questions 6 through 7. Actually, we'll do 6 through 10 here, and then, or 6 through 12, and then we'll have a separate video on the story problems. So, question 6 gives you 0.38 is equal to 6.2 minus x over 1.2. So, for those of you who struggle with this, the difficulty comes with acknowledging what is the constant and what is the coefficient, and what is my job and how do I isolate. So when you analyze this question, you must acknowledge that 6.2 or positive 6.2 is your constant, and your coefficient is that negative division of, well, I don't even know how to say it. It's a fractional coefficient. So when we isolate the variable in the regular way, we're going to get rid of the constant by subtracting 6.2 from both sides. And over here, I'm going to use a calculator for these, especially if you think you can do decimals. Even if you're good at decimals, use your calculator on a test anyway, because it is going to make a difference. So 0.38 take away 6.2 is negative 5.82 is equal to. And when I have this left here, make sure you take your negative sign and include it in your denominator. So I'm going to write it as this here. And the reason why you do that is because on your next step, you're going to multiply both sides by negative 1.2 to isolate the variable. I'm going to multiply this side by negative 1.2 as well. Take your calculator. Negative 5.82 multiplied by negative 1.2. You don't need to put the negative stuff because you know a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. And it's going to equal 6.984. So x is going to equal positive 6.984. In question 7, you have 2 plus 12.5x equals 0.55. So again, acknowledging what side my variable is on, what's my constant, what's my coefficient. Your constant is x, your coefficient is positive 12.5. So I'm going to get rid of the constant first by subtracting 2 from both sides. A positive 12.5x, of course you don't need your positive sign, so I'll erase it, is equal to, use your calculator if you need to, but I know it's negative 1.45, so I can do that mental math in my head. Once you have that, divide both sides by your coefficient, and x will equal, I guess I need my calculator after all, x will equal 1.45. If you want to put the negative sign, go ahead. Divided by 12.5, and your answer will be 0.116 negative. Now, question 9 and question 10 are both fractional coefficients questions. So I'll do this one utilizing the common multiple method, and I'll do the other one using subtract the constant first. Did I skip 8? Okay, I'll come back to 8 after this. So this question here, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to rewrite this 4/3 x. Because 4/3 multiplied by x, I'm going to actually multiply it by x like the coefficient should be and rewrite it as 4x over 3 plus 3 over 4 equals 1/2. Now, I have a very smart student who chose to multiply both sides by 6. And she still got the right answer, but she didn't make her life any easier. And what you want to do is you want to say, if I'm going to multiply both sides, I want to multiply both sides by a common multiple of all of the denominators in the equation. So if I was to physically write out 3, 4, and 2, and write out all of the multiples they have, the first one I would find they share is 12. Sorry, it's 12. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 12. And again, I don't want to be redundant, but if I multiply one side by 12 and I multiply the other side by 12, I maintain equality. So this side is going to be multiplied by 12. This side, which is only one term, is also going to be multiplied by 12. And because this side is multiplied by 12, I need to utilize distributive property to make sure I multiply every term by 12. So 12 multiplied by 4x over 3. I'm going to treat 12 as a fraction as well. 12 multiplied by 3 over 4. And 12 multiplied by 1/2. So simplify all of these. Use cross reduction. So 12 over 3 will reduce down to 4 over 1. And therefore, when I multiply the numerators, it'll be 4 multiplied by 4x, which is going to be 16x over 1, or just 16x. 12 over 4 will reduce down to 3 over 1, leaving me with 9, or a positive 9. That becomes the plus sign, or the part of your constant. Your equals sign is still here, and 12 over 1 multiplied by 2 will equal 6. So now that we have that, we're going to subtract the constant from both sides. 16x equals negative 3. Divide both sides by your coefficient. And x will equal negative 3/16. Or, I don't remember what it is as a decimal. So 3/16, 0.1875. Negative 0.1875. Going back to question 8 that I skipped real quick. Negative 0.77 equals negative 0.1x minus 0.45. What is your constant? What is your coefficient? Where is your variable? Well, your variable's on the right. So this is your constant, and this is your coefficient. Get rid of your constant first by adding 0.45 to both sides, creating a zero pair. My brain can't do that without a calculator. So 0.77 negative plus 0.445 equals negative 0.32 equals negative 0.1x. Divide both sides by your coefficient to isolate the variable, and x will equal, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Negative 0.32 divided by negative 0.1 equals 3.2. Positive 3.2 is your answer. Question 10 gives you 1/2 is equal to 4x plus 2/3. So we're going to solve this method 1, which is get rid of the constant first. Again, not to be redundant, but where's your variable? It's on the right. This is your constant. This is your coefficient. Get rid of your constant first by subtracting 2/3. Because I have to subtract 2/3 from the other side, I'm going to write 1/2 subtract 2/3, or 3 over 2 subtract 2/3, or common denominator 9/6 take away 4/6, which a very smart student will tell you is 5/6. So 5/6 is left over there, and 4x is left over here. When you subtract 2/3 from both sides, that's what you get. You're going to divide by 4 to get rid of the coefficient and isolate the variable. But 5/6 divided by 4 is the same thing as 5/6 multiplied by the reciprocal of 4, which is 1/4. And finally, x will equal 5/24. Did I get that right? Anyone else get 5/24? Okay. And we're good. And your last two questions in this video are question 11. So question 11 says 0.074x minus 3.4 equals 0.707 square bracket sign that shouldn't be there. So the variable is on the right, or the left, excuse me. Constant is negative 3.4. So we're going to add 3.4 to both sides. What's that going to be? 4.107, I think. Divide both sides by the coefficient. And x will equal 4.107 divided by 0.074. Hope, stop talking. X will equal 55.5. Is that right? Good. No mistakes yet? Am I really going the whole video without making one mistake? 67 equals 5.51 plus 4.3x. Variable is on the right. Constant is this. Coefficient is this. Get rid of your constant first by subtracting it from both sides. 61.49 equals 4.3x. Divide both sides by your coefficient, and x will equal 61.49 divided by 4.3. 14.3? Did I do it without a mistake? Hip, hip, hooray.